terms
Mm,
of some of the challenges we experienced, I feel like they're endless, but one of the things that plagued
yeah,
every company is really
yeah.
just the need to move quickly and the need to be much further ahead than you are. It just never goes away. Like
Mm.
7shifts has been around for 10 years. I still have that feeling.
Welcome to the Restaurant Leaders Unplugged podcast, where real talks with restaurant leaders take center stage. Discover the challenges and victories that define success in the culinary world. Dive into essential strategies from marketing to operations and gain insights that will transform your approach to your restaurant business. Don't just keep up, lead the way. Join me, your host, Sebastian Stahl, on this journey to excellence. All right, Jordan, welcome to the Restaurant Leaders Unplugged podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So, Jordan, let's start from the beginning. You have a pretty interesting story how you got started and fell into this whole deal. Can you take us back, to your days, your dad's restaurant days, and how you got involved and how the idea for 7shifts came around?
Yeah, of course. So I worked for my dad who ran some Quiznos restaurants when I was younger. And my grandparents actually owned Orange Julius franchisees.
Mm.
And so naturally, my dad followed suit of his parents and opened some Quiznos locations. And I think for most folks where your parents are running a restaurant, you're working in them to some degree, and
Mm-hmm.
especially as you're growing up. And so we had that fortune of working in Quiznos and really understanding some and learning some basics, not just around working with other people, but really how to work with customers. And I think
Yeah.
that to this day, I think that this industry has such an important duty to try and help train folks to deal with customers and in tough situations. And what better way to get that training than in the restaurant industry, where there's always challenges to overcome, and getting to
Yeah.
practice that at a young age is only going to help you in other aspects of your career.
Yeah. No, definitely. And so, how did the idea come about when you were working with your dad? I'm assuming did you start noticing some inefficiencies or problems with scheduling? How did the idea came about when you first thought, "Hey, there's an issue here that could be solved in a better way"? I'm not sure exactly. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but what year you started 7shifts? What systems were you guys using then that you realized, "Hey, there's something here that needs to be done better"?
Mhm. Yeah, systems. I wish we had systems. It was really basic. And much like most quick service restaurants and full service restaurants were doing things 10 years ago and still today to some degree, but we just used Excel to manage the schedule. And my dad every week would select availability, time off requests. His desk was full of sticky notes saying, I've got a test this day, but I can't work this day. Or, hey, I'm trading shifts with John. And then it's who's trading shifts with John. You didn't leave your name, like what date? Anyway, so there was just all this, what I'd say is managerial chaos that was just part of running an operation. And
Yeah.
when I had worked in the restaurants with my dad, it was at the time I was big into gaming and I was starting to learn how to build websites. And I thought it'd be really cool to build something where he could take that Excel spreadsheet that he builds every week and just upload it to a website. And then staff could all just log in and download the schedule so that there'd be no more calling into the store to find out when you worked. You just
Mhm.
had the schedule that you could download. So that was really the first iteration of what is now 7shifts.
Mhm.
And people talk about rolling out an alpha or beta product. Like, I think that was the most alpha of all alpha products. It was literally just taking his spreadsheet and putting it on a website. And then all the staff shared the same username and password to download it. So it was very rudimentary.
That
I'm
was
not
your
going to sit
MVP.
here. That was the MVP. But it got enough traction that we decided to, I guess not we yet, because I was still by myself, but I decided to make it something later on and continue to chip away at it.
So, pretty interesting story, Jordan. So, when was the moment when you realized, okay, I got something here. Let me really dig into this and make it into a real product that I can sell?
that was probably, so I don't know if I had a specific moment per se, but I just loved building things and solving problems. And I love that
Mhm,
I could use some of the things that I was building. And 7shifts is always a fun side project for me. And I went away to go to
mhm,
school out east. And then I'd finish my job as a web developer from 9 to 5. And then I'd come home and work on 7shifts. And
mhm,
I was like, okay, I'm learning new frameworks and programming languages. And I want to put this out to the world, like more than just my dad.
mhm,
And I put it out there on the internet and allowing people to sign up and create their own accounts. And I guess something that is memorable for me is the first paying customer outside of my dad
yeah,
was a pretty memorable moment. And it
mhm,
was an A&W location in British Columbia here in Canada. And
mhm,
so that was a really cool moment that her name was Amy and she signed up. I called her, we chatted, found out why
mhm,
she signed up. And it was, yeah, I got to iterate and build a lot of the things through some of the feedback from just talking to customers directly. I think
mhm,
that's something that today I think people over engineer or overthink, where they want to automate everything and put in a lot of process really early on. But
yeah,
really, like you just got to do things that don't scale. And that was one of the things that didn't scale, but I wouldn't change it. Calling all these customers and asking why they signed up and what are they
mm,
looking for in 7shifts, and taking those learnings and really building it with them. And they felt this excitement and ownership too, because, oh, you're the founder of this
mm,
product calling me. And now they were more loyal to the product as well. And they got to sit through all those
mm,
changes and iterations. So
mm.
that was a very exciting moment, is to
That
have A&W
for
franchisee pay
sure.
for 7shifts.
No, man, that's a great story. And like, we're gonna get into leadership in a second, but you just mentioned something that's very, important. I think I believe in. I think every leader that we talk to in like, in this industry, I think in every industry, has that component that you just talked about. Is humility, because you're talking about let me listen, let me talk to all these customers, all these people, and understand why they signed up. The curiosity and the humility to like, hey, let me be open to learn to see what's going on. And so I think that's what kind of taking you to where you're at today. So Jordan, where until what was a time when, of course, you started, this was your first customers and you decided, okay, I'm going all in into this product and you decided to just go for it. And what were some of the initial challenges that you faced when you were building 7Shift?
When I decided to really go for it was when I wanted to make it serve more than just my dad and a few of these other customers that we had at the time. And I thought, okay, where do you go to build a big tech company and scale it? Okay, Silicon Valley. So we applied to these tech accelerators in Silicon Valley, and myself and my other co-founders at the time, and they said, all right, so we're going to quit our jobs if we get in. And so
Mhm,
that was a big moment. And we got into a tech accelerator, and I remember moving to the Bay Area with my two co-founders, and that
mm,
to take it more seriously. Mm.
mm.
And living off not a whole lot of money, being
Yeah.
down there, they provided accommodations, which was great, but we still had to buy food and all this other stuff. That was an exciting moment. It was also a very pivotal moment for us because at the end of the program, while we started in hospitality and quick service restaurants, that was not, it took on a different form in various industries. Like we had retail folks using us, we had dog grooming companies, medical companies, a whole spectrum of different industries.
Mm,
And that experience at the Stack Accelerator really helped us decide on, okay, does it make sense to focus? And we thought, yeah, it does make sense. So we decided to focus on restaurants and really
mhm.
carve out this niche for us. And it was very scary at the time because it meant
Yeah.
isolating 2/3 of our customers that weren't
Wow.
restaurants. That meant you're visiting our site to log in one day and it's not, and you're seeing a bunch of restaurant people. And if you're someone in the medical field, you're like, well, what is this? This is
Mhm,
not for me. And so that was scary. And we did lose some folks, but then we started growing again and we attracted the right type of people, the point of sale partners that were restaurant focused, various inventory partners that were restaurant focused. And so by getting really focused on restaurants, yeah, we created this gravitational pull of people that were in the industry and wanted to partner with us. And so that was a really, I think pivotal experience for us to go through that. In terms
Mm.
of some of the challenges we experienced, I feel like they're endless, but one of the things that plagued
Yeah.
every company is really
Yeah.
just the need to move quickly and the need to be much further ahead than you are. It just never goes away. Like
Mm.
7shifts has been around for 10 years. I still have that feeling. But I think early on, and I don't know that I would trade this, even though some may view it as a mistake, but we had a large customer that we outbound called, and large for us at the time was 10 locations. We were largely single
Mhm.
unit operators. We still are today. For the most part, we've got some larger, but anyway. And we had agreed and aligned on bringing them over from a competitor scheduling product, and that we would have time and attendance. So ability to clock in and out through the app. So we hung up with the phone with these folks, and we all looked at each other, and my co-founder, Andre, said, we got to build time and attendance. That's how this person is going to come over. And myself and our other co-founder, Johannes, we looked at each other and we're like, all right, I guess we're building it. And so we got to work that like basically instantly and built this product in very short order, probably like less
Mm.
than a week, and launched it on the app store and had the back end all done. Anyway, this customer onboards and it's just riddled with bugs. It's just
Mm.
it's usable, but they just
Yeah.
keep finding bugs. And we're on the West Coast, they're on the East Coast, a 3 hour time difference. They're calling us. For them, it's 7 in the morning. They just got into the store, or 6 in the morning. It's 3 in the morning
Mm.
for us. So our phones are ringing at 3 in the morning every other
Mm.
day. And we're
Mhm.
waking up to just fix bugs. And we just did that for 2 weeks straight. And it was super painful. But
Yeah.
then at the months later, we had a pretty robust time and attendance product. And I think that we didn't let that discourage us from building. And so I think that was a really exciting adventure to
Yeah.
go down. And I tell that story because a lot of people would say that's a mistake. You should have waited longer. You should have tested
Mm.
things. And yeah, I don't know that I would trade anything. Did that customer churn? Yeah, a year later, but we made it. But
Yeah.
we made that product so good for all these other folks that come on to
Mm.
7shifts. And now it's a very widely used and adopted part of our suite is our time and
Yeah.
attendance products that has deep
Right.
compliance settings, and you learn over time. But that was definitely a challenge for us, is dealing
Yeah.
with constant phone calls in the morning and people screaming at us
Oh, yeah.
that stuff was broken.
Man, I can't imagine. So, because of course, just being in business in general, it's hard. What do you think is a common misconception, especially in the tech world? Man? I mean, it also happens in the restaurant industry. As it seems like glamorous and fun, and they talk about founders and all these things, and it seems so cool. But when you're really in it, I would tell you from my experience, 90% of the time, it's like you're just doing a lot of uncomfortable things. And you're having to go
Yeah.
through this whole process, and it's just constant, like just having this consistency with doing things over and over again until you get it right. And you're having to deal with what you just described. People pissed off, they're not all of these things that happen until you finally build a service or product that is more solid or robust and really solves a problem. So what do you think those misconceptions are?
Misconceptions. Sorry, can you got lost in the question?
Yeah, no worries, man. Sorry, I gotta get through it. The misconceptions of what people think that entrepreneurship is, especially in the tech world,
Mm.
because I know in the restaurant industry that's what happens. But in the tech world, it's like it seems really cool, but a lot of the things that you go through are not so cool.
Yeah. So some common misconceptions of
Mhm.
going through this journey as an entrepreneur in the tech world. I don't know how different they are from other industries, but I think starting anything is very difficult. And there's a reason why not everyone starts a company. It's because it's extremely hard and difficult. If not, we would have companies everywhere. Everyone would have their own company. But I think the barrier to entry is very high, and there's a lot of you have to be okay with just failing a lot and shedding a lot of your ego in the process from failing. I think that's something that's pretty obvious, but I think a lot of people look on the outside in, and it's easy to feel like that's wow, they were so successful and it was probably an overnight success, or they were always successful. But I think it's important to note that every company has their hardships and their challenges,
Mm.
and we're no different. I think and I think the more that folks like myself or other people running companies can have that dialogue with other founders and CEOs, I think that the more you realize this is just part of doing this, whether it's a tech company or a restaurant, I'm sure like has its own, I know it has its own set of challenges, but it is not a straight line. The journey goes like up and down, left and right. And then you eventually feel like you get somewhere. But I would say it's, if you enjoy if you enjoy the feeling of almost never being at the summit, but you always love the thrill of climbing to the summit, then
Mm.
business it might be a great opportunity for you because there's always a new challenge. There's always something that you need to change or fix on your way to the top. But there is, at least I don't feel like there's a destination necessarily.
Mm.
And maybe I think the destination is obviously captured in company vision statements and all of that, but really it's about the long-term journey and being on that journey and what it takes to stay on that path that gets overlooked. Most people
Yeah.
would throw in the towel after a few years. I think they underestimate the amount of grit and the amount of determination that you need to have to stay the course and adjust and try new things, but still stay the course on your idea of what you're trying to become and get this to.
That's a great answer, Jordan. I think that you described it so perfectly. Honestly, I think, yeah, for restaurateurs or any entrepreneur, it's just like you, there's no end at the end of the day. It's, you just continue to do and build, and you have to fall in love with the doing and the building instead of like the end
Yes.
result, because it just, there's always something else that comes and something that you need to evolve with or all of these things. So yeah, thank you for that very accurate description of entrepreneurship and challenges. And Jordan, so I know you guys evolved over time, of course, with your product. Can you tell us a little bit about where seven shifts is now? Of course, in scheduling, and but I know it does a lot more things than that. Can you walk us a little bit through
Yeah.
what you guys have built?
Yeah, of course. So we always started off with scheduling, and that's our sort of core function, scheduling and labor management, actually, and communication. That's what people know us for. And in the past few years, we've really tried to broaden across what we refer to as the employee life cycle. Think of it as like the HR flow. You hire someone, you train them, you schedule them at a similar time, you pay them after they work their shifts, then they're effectively retained until they quit or are terminated.
Mm.
So that flow, hiring, training, scheduling, paying, retaining, is really core to how we focus our time and what we decide to build. And more recently, in the past few years, we've decided to go deep in the pay pillar. And that's been an exciting journey. So when I say pay pillar, I mean connecting scheduling to tip
Payroll.
management. So integrated at the point of sale, operators can build the tipping algorithms. We actually do instant payouts on the tips as well. So we move the money directly to bank accounts of the workers. And then we attach that to our payroll product where we can either, you can run payroll. And if you use the tip products, we'll do all the proper deductions and we'll do all the compliance stuff as well. We're one of few that really can do that end to end in a truly seamless way. And so that's been a big focus for us this year.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that a big reason Danny Meyer and the Union Square Hospitality team use us and their Danny's fund, EHI and Lighten Hospitality Investments, why they invested in us. And it's really around how we think about the importance of employees and the engagement that they need to have within the workplace and how that ultimately yields a better customer experience and how
Mm.
that ultimately yields better repeat business for the restaurant. And Danny's famous for saying the customer is not first, it's the employees that are first. Because if the
Hmm.
employees are treated well, they'll treat the customers well. And you can see how that starts to
Yeah.
transcend. And so we built our Engage product with this in mind, where we can help operators determine who's actively engaged, who's becoming disengaged. They can see the feedback that comes in through the app around how they enjoyed their shift, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and try and use this feedback as a gift to say, okay, some of this is valid, some of this might not be valid, but at least there's a
Right.
channel where the feedback is coming in. And I, as an operator, can decide I want to do something with that. And that's been a very useful product. And we've seen it used in multi-unit operators where the engagement scores were very low at one of these locations. They dug
Mm,
in and they found it was a bad manager hire. And guess what also
mm,
was bad in that location? Their sales. They got rid of that bad manager hire. All the engagement scores went back up and the business sales went up as well. So there is a correlation in terms of how employees are being treated and how engaged they are and how that could impact the sales that they drive or
mm.
decide to help upsell on various things on the
Oh,
menu. So I think that's a really important factor in that broader suite of the employee life cycle that I think it's overlooked and it's something that we take pretty seriously.
man, that's fantastic, Jordan. I think that feature itself it's really amazing. And you're right. It starts with your team, right? How they feel. If they feel valued, if they feel happy with whatever they're doing, then whatever they're going to put out there, and especially in hospitality, that's what they're going to be really how they're going to be taking care of their guests. Jordan, now that we're talking about this, any anything that anything that you just mentioned about, of course, keeping your team happy, and we're going to shift now to leadership because it's important. How do you do this, or how do you apply this within your team at 7shifts?
Yeah, I think feedback is a very important mechanism that we have in one of this engaged product where we're asking for
Mhm.
feedback. I think that's really important in any organization and especially ours. We have a value called be radically candid. And radical candor is very difficult because it does not come natural to people. It means essentially that you care personally about an issue you have with a person and you want to challenge them directly, but you care. So it's not coming off, you're not being an asshole to them. And you're making it about how that interaction made them feel and made me feel. And I'm telling you that I'm getting your side of it too. And I'm listening, but I'm also not holding grudges around that. And I think that that is the hardest value to live, I think, for people in general. And like
Yeah.
even myself at times, but like I think because I thrive off of some degree of radical candor as well, that I think it's important for a highly functioning organization. If not, toxicity creeps in. And
Mm,
you're because you're instead of talking to the person directly, you're talking to their manager, you're talking behind their back, you're talking to your
mm,
friends. Now there's
mm.
sort of animosity. And I think that life's too short to live like that. I think you owe it to that person to tell them how you feel about that situation. And again,
Mm.
assuming you're doing it in a place that is caring and it's direct, more often than not, it turns into a good back and forth and you can both move on. But I think absent that, you start to create dysfunction. But
Mm.
candor builds trust. And I think that the foundation of people really and teams working
Yeah.
in that have to cross collaborate and work in companies, the foundational element is trust. If you look at the five dysfunctions,
On the team.
the bottom part of the pyramid is trust. And if there's no trust, you can't have accountability. And if without accountability, you can't drive results and
Mm.
how that starts to stack up. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really important aspect of what we do and try to really promote here is being radically candid.
And can you give me an example, Jordan? How do you guys make this real, right? Because of course, this is a value, and everybody's supposed to have this. Everybody's supposed to be candid and be honest with how they see things and providing feedback. How do you create a space for that? How do you implement it, make it real? Is-
Yeah, I think this is the challenge that we even face right now. Like I think that one-on-ones are the best way to implement it, I think, but it's got to be on a frequent basis. Like it's got to be more than monthly that you're having these questions. And it looks like just asking your manager, hey, do you have any feedback for me? And then you give feedback to your manager. They say, do you have any feedback for me? That's really, it's that simple, but it's that hard.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's not easy. And I think it's creating the space for people to feel safe in really expressing that feedback and giving that feedback because, and I guess that goes back to culture, right? Like what type of culture you create in your business And this is, of course, again, super important in any business. In restaurants, it's super important because we need to create this space where the people can be honest and they can work well together. So how do you guys go about creating of course, if it's one-on-one, it's great, but how does it trickle down? Because how many team members do you guys have in that group?
About 250.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a big team. So any and I'm sorry I'm thinking this, but this is so important, and I think it's valuable for people to understand how you guys
Mhm.
implement this, because I think it's how you guys run things are great. Is there any specific besides the one-on-ones, anything else that you guys do to make sure that these values trickle down from the top to everybody in
Yes.
the company?
Yes. So we have 5 values. They spell out the acronym BEAMS, BEAMS. Be radically candid, embrace new challenges, quicken odor, make every experience all evident, and solve with simplicity. And a big way that we reinforce this is at our monthly all hands. So during we have a bit of like behavioral machine running where folks, if they encounter someone that demonstrates that value very well, be radically candid, they will submit that story to our platform, our HR platform. And every month we sift through them and we find out great stories and we read them in front of the entire company. And we say, Sebastian nominated Jordan for embrace new challenges. And then they say the story and then everyone claps. I think that those are just important moments to reinforce the importance of those behaviors and told in a way that is a good demonstration of that behavior, because it's easy to say, oh, here's a story, but it actually might
Mhm.
not be a really great demonstration of that behavior. And so we have to do our diligence to sift through and find the ones that are the good behaviors that we want people to emulate to then share with the company. Cause then they can go, oh, that's what it means to embrace new challenges. Oh, okay. I get it. And with people joining, leaving the company, whatever, like you need to say it multiple times because that person who just joined may have never heard that before. Someone that's been here for years has heard this every month, but that's not the point. You have to all be on the same page, and repetition is really part of that.
Yeah. Yep. You're describing it's the same process also in the restaurant industry. You guys remember when we were operating these multiple restaurants and we would get frustrated because, okay, the guys, they don't get it. Like we've said this over and over again. But the truth is that we had to continue repeating the same message over and over again because that's how it becomes ingrained and real.
Yes, exactly.
So, Jordan, I know you faced a lot of challenges, of course, as a CEO and running 7 shifts. And moments you probably encounter self-doubt and burnout. How do you manage these challenges personally? And what strategies have you found to be effective in maintaining focus and resilience?
Oh man, you got the answer to this one? You tell me.
I can tell you some things I do, but
Yeah.
some tools I use.
So I definitely have had my fair share of ups and downs and burnouts. And honestly, a big part of it for me, there are multiple factors that could affect when I'm starting to burn out or I'm feeling low energy. And I always first look at my sleep. Am I getting enough
Mhm,
sleep?
mhm.
5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And it's been adventures for several years in terms of what thing they're
Yeah,
going to wake me up in the middle of the night with.
I know
Um,
exactly what you're talking about. 'Cause like I got kids too.
so I think that's a table stakes. The next thing, if sleep is in check, I try and ask myself and go back to what fulfills me and what does the company need? And that's a great intersection to live at is the things that I enjoy and what the company actually needs to be done is an obvious area, and trying to make sure that I'm really dialed into that and optimizing for that. Because sometimes I think that there's certain things a company needs and maybe it's not the thing that I enjoy doing the most. But we all have that. We all have things that we know it needs to be done. Is it our favorite? No. But I think trying to make sure I'm balancing that with the things that I really enjoy is important. And if the things that you don't enjoy doing get to be too cumbersome, then you should get someone else to help you do those things so that you can use your superpowers and your energy for the things that the company truly needs. So I think that's when those things are in check, I find that I'm my best self when I'm sleeping and I'm working and I'm feeling like I'm contributing and I'm productive and I'm doing the
Mm.
things that I'm good at and I enjoy, that is my happy place. And I'm very quick to pinpoint if that's not happening. And I try to make sure that I'm figuring out why and if I need to do something
Yeah.
about it and when.
Huh. That's a great answer, Jordan. I think pretty much like you, man. It's the sleepy part is so important, man, especially with kids. Like you don't know what's going to happen when they're young.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but
It's they wake you up for multiple things.
whatever, man. We're about to have another, it's just that anything happens. We're about to have another kid and it's just, yeah, it's starting all over again. We got a 5-year-old and now the one that's coming, but
Oh, that's exciting. Good for you. Early congrats. That's exciting.
thanks, man. It is. Sure, but you mentioned something really important here that I think to it's important to remember when you why you are in business, why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that happens, of course, to restaurateurs or for anybody in business. Like when you're going through the grind and the things that are uncomfortable and things sometimes that you don't want to do it, you're not really in your happy place because you're not delegating, or you might be maybe you're starting out and you got to do all these things. But then remembering and thinking about what is it that you really love from what you do and focus on that and see how you can spend more time there.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, Jordan, a couple more questions for you. So, there's a lot of things going on with the restaurant industry right now, as we'll see what happens with tariffs and all this craziness with that. Labor costs continue to be high, food costs still high. Where do you see this heading? I mean, you're talking to a bunch of restaurant owners, and I'm sure. And what's your take on this thing?
So we recently did a survey. So it was a workforce management report where we surveyed like 1,000 operators. And to answer this question, like what is happening right now? How you feeling? And there were a series of challenges that are not new to the industry, but are becoming more prevalent. For instance, hiring still seems
Mhm.
to be the top challenge. It's 30% cited that as their biggest challenge. And so I'm feeling like there's just fewer qualified candidates in the pool is a big part of it. 65% of folks in this report said that just in terms of the hiring market, they said it was either tight or very tight. So I think there's some concern there. And then also with the deportation of
Mhm.
of folks in the US, I think that's a really scary thing for a lot of restaurant operators and looking at the Hispanic population and thinking about a lot of the big roles that these folks play in restaurants and some of them very key roles. And so I don't, assuming some of this stuff takes place in the US, I'm actually very concerned that this hiring pain that was already felt before is just getting worse and it's about to become way worse depending on where things land. So I think there's a bit of yeah, I think there's some negative thoughts rolling through people's minds in the industry on what's going to happen. And we're following a lot of folks that are operating multi units as well, and they're seeing softer sales numbers, and people are maybe spending a little bit less just with some of the uncertainty of what's been going on. So I think it feels like a bit of an anxious time right now, and I'm not sure that it's specific to restaurants. I think there's a pretty broad sense of anxiety from a lot of different folks. But so that's what we're hearing, seeing, and experiencing.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. Same thing. We talked to a lot of restaurateurs, and that's what it is. There's a lot of uncertainty. Just things are changing, and it's just everybody's trying to figure out. And I guess everybody in business, I guess, just trying to figure out what to do and how to tackle whatever comes, right? But I trust that, of course, we'll get through it, and especially restaurateurs are very creative, and we'll find ways
Yes.
around what's happening. Of course, it's going to be for automation and more use of tech. And I think, yeah, some of the concepts are shifting towards that, just being more efficient. Yeah,
Yes.
we'll see where that goes. So, Jordan, so what's next for 7 shifts? Anything new and exciting you guys are building?
Top secret information, Sebastian. All top secret, classified. So we've been similar like what I said earlier. We've been really heads down on the pay pillar in the employee journey and really trying to make that very seamless for operators so that they can schedule and pay their staff from one platform. They don't have to jump to multiple platforms. They can integrate 7shifts with virtually any point of sale. I think that's a huge benefit to not getting stuck into one core platform where your payroll is tied to your point of sale and all the other things. We can actually move with you if you decide to move those. And
Mhm.
that's a big that is a big focus for us. But we're gonna as we chip away at this and build for to support more multi-unit operators with our payroll product is a big thing right now. And really just making sure we're covering all the meat and potatoes, I like to call it, compliance things and workflows. And I don't think operators need more flashy things with AI. Look, there are use cases for AI, and I think we use a bit of AI in our company, but I think oftentimes people forget just the meat and potatoes of this thing needs to work. And if it doesn't work, then it's no good. And looking back at tightening up integrations, making sure the pay journey is correct and the numbers are right, and making sure there's no hiccups there, I think making that experience in 11 is really top of mind for us because we know if we nail that and it works extremely well, those operators are going to tell more operators and they're going to tell 10 and those will tell more. So I think there's a certain level of local advocacy that happens in the restaurant industry that is unlike a lot of other industries. And
Yeah.
I think we need to continue to tap into that.
Mhm. That's great, Jordan. And so final question. If you could address one major challenge facing the restaurant industry overnight, what would that be and why?
Oh, just one.
Just you
Um,
gotta pick one.
I would say, I think I think fixing the hiring challenge would be a huge weight off the shoulders of many operators. I think I would pick that to fix overnight. And then following that and diving a little bit deeper, I would also want to change. This is a broader pipe dream and wish, but just the sentiment of hospitality work. I think I really want it to be seen as a really important phase, whether it's a phase of life for folks or whether they decide to do it long term. There is a stigma attached to working in a restaurant that I think it's sad. These people work harder than most people in other jobs. And I think that they deserve a lot of recognition. So I think one, solving the hiring problem, and then also the perception around restaurant work.
Love that, Jordan. Actually, great answers, but by the way, and the last one, it's something that we've been talking about for years, and we're now was becoming more involved directly with it in hospitality and being in it and running restaurants. And that's something that we always ask ourselves. So, like, why is it? What is it about it that people have this perception? And I think the answer that came back after talking to a few people, it's the perception that it's not really a career, but that's also on us in the industry of
Mhm.
not laying out a path of where you can go in this industry when you get started and where you're heading. Because it's only okay, it's only a server or whatever, it's the buzzer or like whatever words we use. But I think we as an industry need to change how we talk about it and then again just make it really clear where you can be and where you can head because there's so many positions, so many levels as you grow and scale in the industry. So,
Exactly. When we did our survey around employee engagement, it was like 24% of them listed lack of opportunities as the reason why they left their job in the restaurant space. And that's like one in four, basically. And I think that in a lot of cases, like you can give folks some clarity around where they could go and or how they can get more money and getting a little bit more serious about that because I think there is for sure this feeling of, well, it's just a revolving door. I'll just go back to my stack of resumes. Costs like $3,000 to $5,000 to retrain and rehire a person. What are you doing? That's time away from you. So I think that we need to I'm hopeful that operators can think about that cost of retraining and rehiring a little bit more when it comes to workers, because charting a growth path for someone that stays with you 6 months to a year longer is very worth it from a bottom line perspective. It's just everyone's obsessed with what am I paying my workers hourly versus what are they getting done? What is the productivity like? How are they treating my guests? And what is that guest experience like? And how many come back from that great experience? There's a lot of stuff that is very hard to measure that
yep.
goes into the engagement and happiness of workers that just because you can't measure it doesn't mean it's not important. Not
Mm,
everything that you can measure matters, and not everything that matters is something that you can measure.
mm. Absolutely, Jordan. And that's a great answer. And so, Jordan, I won't take much more of your time. It was really awesome to have you here in the show. Thank you for your time and again for sharing all these insights. And of course, for anybody listening for 7 shifts, pretty, really well known already in the industry. I think it's really one of the best tools out there for everything that you guys do. So, Jordan, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sebastian.
All right, take care.
Thanks, man. See you.